This Qatar Grand Prix 2024 betting picks edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome in to another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. We say goodbye to, we're leaving Las Vegas and we are heading toward full disclosure, you know that I love to be proper in my pronunciations of anything, let alone places where races are held. However, if there is a more polarizing country in the world on how to properly pronounce the name of the country, it's Qatar, it's Qatar, it's Qatar, it's however Crafty says it as well. So I'm just going to say that we're here for the Grand Prix this week and let you guys figure out how you want to pronounce it because it's not easy.
The most egregious mispronunciation there was crafty. It's crofty, Rod. Come on.
Okay, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I
get it right. My goodness.
Crofty. But I hear them say crafty. Like it's just
True.
a matter of how you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, well, it's the inflection Jesus, I can't. Words are hard, Rod. I'm not very good at them. Accent is the word I was looking for. And when it comes to F1, you got a lot of different accents in a lot of different places. And here's your NASCAR accent take on Qatar. So that's
we're only 75 episodes into this, so we might as well just mispronounce everything at this point. Although I will say that we are on the course that is Lusail. That I can say, Lusail International Circuit. So I'll just say Lusail. That'll save me a whole lot of grief in this instance. But buddy, Las Vegas, man, that was yet another fun race. I swear to God, next year I have to get out to see that because I was just looking at the way the sphere looks like when all the cars, I've never been there in a very long time. It's been years and years and decades since I've been to Las Vegas. So I have never seen the sphere in person, but I got to think that thing looks enormous already on TV, but I can't imagine what it looks like in real life.
I can't imagine. It's gotta look so cool. And the city of Las Vegas, like it already has its own lure and looks great under the lights and everything. But then you add the circuit that's cut out on the strip, like through the streets. They have the streets open to the public during the day, close it off and have on-track action at night. Like everything about it is just a beautiful, beautiful sight, and see those cars, ripping down the strip and through the streets of Las Vegas is great. So you got to love it. Congratulations to the 4-time champion, Max Verstappen. He wraps it up, which is actually going to play into one of my handicaps coming up here in a little bit, Rod. I think that's an important bit of news for that. So shout out to him. He wraps up the driver's title. Obviously, the constructor's title battle wages on as they continue to head towards the finish line on that. McLaren currently holding the lead still over Ferrari in second place, and Ferrari is, what are they, Rod?
Not far behind, I'll tell you that.
24 points behind McLaren. So pretty tight battle. Now, if you look at the odds, and I think, maybe some stuff we'll talk about today, this does look like a pretty good place for McLaren to show up and score some points, which is going to be big for them if they can. And inch ever so closer over these last two races to trying to wrap up that Constructors' Championship.
which we will definitely talk about in just a second. But I would like to take the opportunity to say, first of all, happy Thanksgiving week to all of you out there who celebrate. For the Canadians out there, like the JDK who's saying long time no see, you guys already had your Thanksgiving. So happy past Thanksgiving to you. We're celebrating ours this week. And in honor of that, the SGPN network is running a massive merch sale Thursday through Sunday this week. Everything is 25% off. All you got to do is use the promo code Black Friday, all one word. That's right, 25% off of everything, including your favorite racing gambling podcast. Look, I've got myself a SGPN network coffee mug, but you can also find yourself a nice little racing gambling podcast mug, or a hoodie, or a shirt, or a Refs or Terrorist shirt, which Cody says starts a lot of conversations out and about. So go pick up all that stuff. Promo code Black Friday, all one word, 25% off.
Yeah, that shirt, Rod, I've never worn it and not gotten minimum, like if I've left the house, comments. Like, and if you're out for the day, like tens of comments of, oh, nice shirt, or love the shirt, or hilarious. Like, I wore it when I went to Boston this summer, and like I was walking down the street, and like these two like younger girls were just like giggling at my shirt and laughing, and it was like they probably weren't like really football fans, but they even thought it was funny. So great conversation starter, and it was great.
Beautiful. Yeah, we're coming up with plenty of merch idea ourselves. I think we've been in the what do you call that? The lab, trying to come up with some good stuff to put out there over the next course of the season. So we'll do that. Real briefly, Cody, because we actually had a pretty halfway decent day on the betting card from Las Vegas. I know we don't always spend a lot of time recapping, but I just want to go over a couple of the fun bets that we had that actually cashed in this race. And your first one was a doozy.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up on that, Rod. I'll get to the doc. I don't remember what my first one was. Oh, yeah, how could I forget? Well, the second half of the first one anyways, Rod. George Russell, is this the one you're talking about, hopefully?
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
8-1 to finish on the podium, Rod. Of course, he fucking destroys everybody, wins the race. So maybe should have had him in the outright market, apparently, but 8-1 for the podium. That one did cash, and was a great call out. He's just been so consistent lately. They were disrespecting him a little bit. Should have looked a little harder at the outright market, obviously, but good finish for him.
Yeah, and Mercedes had been fast all weekend long too. They were tops the charts at FP1. They were the best qualified. I mean, these guys just had it. I don't know where that speed came from, but boy, they needed it all weekend long. So good on them. My first one was actually pretty good too. I had Franco Colapinto over Esteban Ocon. Now, Albon. I'm just butchering up names today. Colapinto over Albon this week. And look, this one actually may not have had a chance from the get-go. There was a couple things that went about it. Colapinto had that huge hit during qualifying.
Nobody was even sure if he was going to actually start the race. That wreck was so bad.
Yeah, he did. He started in the back, so good on him to march his way up to 14th. That was a hell of a charge, by the way. And then Albon was actually doing very well, too. He was inside the points for most of the day till he suffered that mechanical issue. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Colapinto ended up with a 14th place finish. Albon did not finish the race. Therefore, plus 220 cashed in this one.
Yeah, I had the you know what? I'm not even going to say his name anymore, Rod. He's been blacklisted. I did have the second Red Bull driver to finish on the podium. I apologize for ever betting on that fucking clown that can't make it past Q1. So that didn't work. I also had Stroll to finish in the points, Rod. Stroll did not finish in the points. And he was also bounced very early in Q1 and started dead last on the grid. Well, he started second last on the grid because the Bottas 5. I love when they give a guy a 5-place grid penalty that starts second to last every week. But yeah, unfortunately, Stroll was not the week for the Canadian.
Was not the week for the Canadian at all, but it was for the Japanese Yuki Tsunoda, who I had to win Group 4 over on Caesars at plus 320 over K-Mag, Lawson, and Stroll. We just talked about Stroll not necessarily doing very well. He finished 15th, but man, Yuki Tsunoda, what a run! 9th place, and this was a solid 9th place. This wasn't like a strategy 9th place. This was Yuki running inside of the points pretty much all damn day long. And were it not for Nico at the end of it, he would have finished actually in 8th. But so Yuki finished in 9th, K-Mag finished in 12th, Stroll finished in 15th, and then Liam Lawson ended up finishing in 16th place. So not a good day for him as well. But yeah, I mean, look, he's really making a case now. He really wants that second Red Bull seat. And I think if he continues to finish better than Sergio Perez, he may actually be making a case for it.
That's a low bar, Rod.
Hey, but it's a bar you got to cross if you want to get in that ride, right?
It's true. I had the winning margin under. It's a great call, by the way, on Yuki. I love betting Yuki. He's one of my favorite drivers to bet on. So glad you hit another bet on him. I had the winning margin under 6 seconds, Rod. 7.3 was the winning margin between the Mercedes. So unfortunately, just missed out on that one by just a little over a second, which is always a little painful.
Well, look, and to be fair, Hamilton was closing that gap there at the end, but he didn't have it. And then eventually they were telling George, okay, you can push again, because George was basically managing the gap anyways. And then they were like, all right, George, go ahead, put your foot on the pedal. And then he did. And he opened up the gap there at the end of the race. So, I mean, Lewis had this within 5 seconds every once in a while. So you were on the right track. It's just at the end of it, Hamilton had tore up his tires just trying to get there in the first place, and kind of lost a little bit of grip enough to get there. So yeah, but good call on you though. I think this would have hit if Lewis hadn't had to try to jam up to the front and Russell wouldn't have been hanging back. So all right, this next one, I should have had this as the last qualified driver rather than the first constructor retirement, because I mean, look, Bottas did not let us down in being the last qualified finisher for Kick Sauber. However, there was trouble on the other parts of the track that led to Pierre Gasly having to get out. Boy, that puff of smoke from his car was not fun. And then Albon was retired as well after his mechanical failures. So yeah, I mean, look, those two retired before a kick. And in fact, Kick Sauber had both drivers finish. And honestly, Zhou Guanyu with the 13th place finish, not bad for a Sauber team.
That's like a win for them.
hey, and he almost could have had a points finish were it not for like Magnussen and these guys making another stop later too. So good on them. But sorry, I picked the wrong side of this on this instance.
Yeah, I had Charles Leclerc plus 320 to win the race. Oh, I felt so good about this, Rod. We get that start. He jumps down underneath everybody, pops into second place. He's clearly fast, and you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. He's about to make the pass on Russell. They sort of touch. He drops back. Then his tires were gone, and it just the rest of the evening kind of snowballed from there. It looked so good right at the beginning, and you're like, dude, he's fucking fast. Here he comes. Like, if he would have gotten around Russell right there, I think it'd be a completely different story. I think he'd have run away, and we'd have not seen anybody else have a shot at this. But he just burned his tires off, trying so hard to get around Russell. Couldn't get it done, and then he just hemorrhaged positions. You know, he holds on for a 4th place finish at the end of the day, but that really felt like his shot, and like he could have had it there and wasn't able to get it done, and so unfortunately missed out on him. And then I had he who shall not be named at 100-1. Again, apologies for ever even talking about that fella.
He probably will not be talked about for the rest of this season as well. Close the chapter on him. I had Oscar Piastri, and not really a good day at all. Not something that McLaren wanted to write home about. They actually come in 6th and 7th to Lando and Piastri. Like, and really it goes back to the fact that they couldn't use the rear wing that they wanted to use, and they're blaming it all on that rear wing, and that they could have been, I would have been faster if you'd have let me use my rear wing. Well, they didn't get to, and they finished 6th and 7th. So who knows, with a better rear wing, and you can't even say that 3 times fast, with a better rear wing, maybe
rear wing. They had a better rear wing.
Yeah.
Then maybe they get it done. So yeah, kind of a bit of a rough day for them. Of course, Norris did snag the fastest lap, give them that extra point in the constructors title. But a little bit of a rougher day for the McLaren guys. Might not be the case this week, Rob.
It may not be the case at all this week. Maybe they get to use their rear wing that they wanted to. Nico checking in saying, on a 10-minute break, very happy to see the SGPN boys still on the grind.
Here we are.
Can't get rid of us, Nico. I think we pretty much live on this channel right now. So that's where we're at. All right. That's Vegas. We leave Las Vegas. We'll come back to it again next year for more fantastic racing on the strip. But we turn our attention to Lusail.
By the way, just on the Vegas note real quick, 2025 odds to win the Las Vegas Grand Prix are already posted.
Already out? For the love of God.
It is so impressive. Like I get it, right? You love the Vegas Grand Prix because it's Vegas and everything, but yeah, they waste absolutely no time getting the odds out for next year, which is just incredible.
Who's the favorite? Is it Max?
That's a great question. It is Max. I was trying to find. Now I don't remember what book. Oh, here it is. It's on DraftKings. Yeah, Max and George are tied at 3-1. Lando at 4-1. Lewis Hamilton at 6-1. If you're going to place an early bet,
Ferrari? Ooh.
Don't hate that. Then Leclerc, Piastri, Andre, Kimi, Antonelli is 14-1. Rod, it's pretty high odds for him up there already. He who should not be named and Liam Lawson are both at 35-1. So a couple of guys up there that we haven't really seen in the past, I guess.
Interesting. That Hamilton one on Ferrari is really, really enticing. So fun. Yeah. That'll be fun to break down at some point and some other place. So let's talk about Lusail. But first, I want to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports. It's NFL, it's college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, Formula One, and so much more. You can use specials and boosts now on all flex entries. Going to be using mine on this particular race wherever Max Verstappen is, which is probably going to be, I'm thinking maybe 3.5, maybe 2.5. I'm taking the lower then because I think that Max Verstappen is just going to cruise. I don't think that he's going to, I know he's going to try to win because he's Max Verstappen, but by the same token, he's really got nothing to race for anymore. There's folks that have way more to race for, and they're going to be trying to unseed him from trying to win this race so they can take the Constructors Championship home. So you could do the same. And while you're at it, sign up with our promo code RACESGPN. You're going to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. I really am going to be interested to see what his projected finishing position is going to be at, because I definitely do want to take the worst then in this instance, because you figure with Mercedes and Ferrari and McLaren all fighting it out, like he's probably just going to want to take a nice little trip around Lusail and kind of, ride it out in the sunset.
Who are we talking about again, Rod?
It's Max Verstappen. I know he's going to put the pedal to the metal, but
I really know that guy lets off very often.
No, he doesn't. In fact, it's funny because if you listen to his radio broadcasts all day long, like his team was just saying, keep the bigger picture in mind, Max. Keep you
just go back to the last 3 seasons where he's dominating everything, and he'd have a 47-second lead and just be bitching about how bad the car is, and he couldn't believe it was this horrible. And it's like,
can we make a pit stop for soft tires? We need soft tires right now. It's like, Max,
just calm down, buddy. Shut up. Before, Rod, we get into the Grand Prix for this weekend, I did want to talk about the big news that broke today. If you're a NASCAR listener, we did talk about this on the NASCAR show because we think that it does have some translation over to the NASCAR world as well. But Formula One announced today that it has reached the agreement in principle with General Motors to support GM/Cadillac as the 11th team to the grid in 2026. Of course, 2026, 2 seasons from now. But that's when all the big engine changes are coming. We're going to the more hybrid model and all of that. And so they're going to add an 11th team to the grid. We'll be up to 22 cars. More cars, I think, is always a great thing. You love to see that. More competition, bringing GM in, and the Cadillac brand, I think, will be really cool and great. Obviously, a lot of American-based things in that. So you love to see it. And, I'm pretty excited for an expansion of the grid, which we haven't had in quite some time in F1, right? It's been with the 10 teams, the 22 or 20 cars, rather, for quite some time. So adding GM/Cadillac to the grid in 2026 is going to be pretty exciting, I think.
I'm thinking about what 22 cars on the track would look like for F1. I mean, I know that in NASCAR,
probably look a lot like it does now with 2 extra cars.
in 75 episodes, Cody, I've never actually not known how to come back on something because that's exactly, I mean, it's the obvious answer. And yeah, I mean, but then, like, what does that do to Kick Sauber? Do they become the 21st and 22nd team all of a sudden?
Yeah, but that's two whole. I mean, go back to last year, right? Like Kick Sauber, as
State.
what were they called? Yeah, what were they called last year? But they weren't
Sorry.
as bad as they weren't as bad as they are this season. And by 2026, the whole grid is gonna. I mean, the whole grid is gonna look completely different next year, right? It's completely shifting and changing. And then you get to 2026 where we have a completely new car and engine. Everything's going to look totally different by then as well. And we'll see, who ends up in leadership roles, what people you're able to poach from other teams to come to this team and develop this program. Who do you end up with for drivers, right? I think that's obviously going to be very key. It'll be interesting to see how it changes the grid and the look of it. And then it's going to make, more interesting for points finishes, because now instead of just 20 cars, you got 22, and we're still going to be paying points for top 10, right? So, it definitely will change the look and feel of things around F1 for sure.
Still be fun, and I'll still enjoy watching it as well. Just like I will this week as we go to the Lusail International Circuit. 5.419 kilometers for a total race distance of 308.611 kilometers. So just over 3 miles for this track. A far cry from the double the size of that on the Las Vegas circuit for sure. This one has only been around since 2021. We're set for 57 laps around this track. The lap record belongs to, surprise, surprise, Max Verstappen last year, who turned a 124.319 lap around this track that looks like, well, Biggie Small's crown. I'm just going to go with a crown, and I'm putting it on Biggie Small's head because, he likes to wear it sideways, and it just kind of looks like it's like a crown that should be worn sideways.
Like a crown that should be worn sideways. That is, no argument, Rod. That's it.
There's nothing. I mean, there's really no comparison. I can't see anything in this other than like a new age sculpture type.
Yeah, I was trying to
turn it around to get a better perspective.
Yeah, flip it upside down, try it sideways.
Maybe like a turtle on its back.
Yeah, but it's only got 3 legs, or what's going on? Is it wearing high heels? I don't know. I don't think that's. We'll stick with the crown.
This is what the people come for this to this show for. So,
JDK, by the way, checking in, Rod. Could we see Kyle Larson in a Cadillac F1 car? That is actually an interesting point, because Kyle Larson in 2026 could be racing for Cadillac in the Cup Series, as we talked about earlier. And of course, it's GM. The partnership is there. Would be interesting to see. Because Las Vegas would be perfect for Kyle Larson to run that Grand Prix, because obviously it's here in the States. The Cup season is over by then. But they can't just field an extra car. It's not like NASCAR where it's like, oh, we'll just have a third car, So do you kick out one of your drivers you have, or what's that look like would be sort of interesting. And I think, could we see him in an FP1? We see a lot of that oftentimes where they'll swap out another driver, get him some seat time in a practice session. I definitely think we could see that, especially on any of these United States Grand Prix, right? Whether it be or any of the Grand Prix that are in the United States, whether it be COTA, Miami, or Vegas. COTA, he's obviously raced on previously, and Vegas is after the season, so those would probably be the most ideal ones. But definitely could open up the door to the NASCAR world a little more for Mr. Kyle Larson, greatest driver in the world.
Greatest driver.
Am I allowed to say that on this show?
This one, yes, you can say anything you want. Now, we got 2 races left of the season. You could say,
especially we only got two races left. So
yeah, you could say whatever you want. All right, Cody, we're gonna get into our bets for this particular race, but before we do, I want to go commercial free, and the way we do that is to tell you initially about MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. We're brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie has been running on SGPN for years. Check out their new and improved website, which looks great on mobile, plus props for every game and the live dealer casino. You can even take advantage of the new early cash out options. Loving me some, and me and Cody are going to disagree on this one, but I like the Chargers tonight. You're going to get even money, plus 100 for Chargers plus 2.5 on Thursday Night Football. And if you're listening afterwards, sorry, I was right anyways. You should have taken that bet and listened earlier. But there's other great bets on mybookie.ag to take advantage of. You can head over to mybookie.ag, use promo code SGPN. You're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code RACE-SGPN. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions to bet on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You can build your own model, copy one of the top performing betting models on the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. Plus, you can track props now in the Rhythm app. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all. You can claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right. I know you don't like the formerly San Diego Superchargers of Los Angeles, but I like the little brother beating the big brother for a chance.
Yeah, I think that you're just allowing your San Francisco 49er bias to creep in a little bit. John is 2-0 against Jim. Jim, it's very impressive what he does. He comes in, he takes over these programs, cheats a little, pays a guy to watch practices, fine, it's no big deal, and wins immediately, which is great. But Big Brother, Big Brothers know what's up, Rod. As the oldest brother myself, we're generally the smarter and better ones, and I feel like I would beat my brothers in a game coaching football as well. So I got to go with John in this case.
I mean, I'm the oldest, so I can't argue with you on that.
I was gonna say I was trying to think about that. I was like, God, I feel like Rod is the oldest, but maybe he's not. Maybe that's why he's taking the younger brother's side. So I think that you just saw me convince Rod to take the Ravens. So go over to my bookie, use that promo code SGPN, take the Ravens at -2.5. You won't regret it, friends.
Too bad that most people are going to listen to this after the show, so it doesn't after the game is over. So it doesn't
they're
going to
know one of us was. It is always fun to listen after something's happened, and you're like, "Wow, they were fucking way wrong." Or you're like, "Oh, he fucking nailed that! Damn, I wish I'd have known that beforehand."
That's the world we
how
swim
it goes.
All right. Speaking of which, hindsight will benefit us in these instances as well as we place our bets for the Qatar Grand Prix. The Qatar Grand Prix, however you want to say it, at Lusail. Cody, please bail me out and tell me where we begin from here.
I'm throwing shit over here, Rod. I'm so excited about Nico Hulkenberg to finish in the points. -110. It's not a super sexy bet, right? -110, but wow, now I'm shoving my microphone all over the place. I am just very excited about Nico Hulkenberg. Rod,
said no one ever.
Well, maybe his parents or something, Rod. Jesus
okay,
Christ.
that's true. His parents.
Somebody's been excited about him before, but you should be excited about Nico Hulkenberg because if you throw out the rain race in Brazil a couple of weeks ago, which there's nothing you can take out of that race. It was great. We hit Max Verstappen and win 11-1. It was wonderful, but everything about that was a complete and total shit show, right? So we're going to throw that out. Nico didn't even make like 30 laps, I don't think. But if you throw that out, he has 4 straight finishes inside of the points, Rod, which you love to see. That's good consistency, different track types, different track styles, different places, shows up, gets it done. He has a real affinity for finishing 11th place, which is the caveat that I'm going to throw into this bet. If you could get a top 11, I'd be a lot more confident because if you look, but even just the fact that he can finish 11th, he's so close to getting in the points that I still like it. So expand it to the top 11. He's been top 11 in 5 of the last 7 races. So he's either in the points or within 1. Again, that's throwing out the Brazil race. But then he's been top 11 in 16 of the 21 Grand Prix this season. That includes the Brazil race, along with others. And 9 of those have been inside the points. It's been a really strong season for Hulkenberg, sort of just under the radar and quietly because you don't really talk about him a lot. It's not super flashy. A lot of times it's just 9th or 10th place, like just barely getting in the points. But that's all you're looking for from him. Going back and looking at this Grand Prix in particular, they raced it last season in 2023, but they didn't race in 22 because the World Cup was going on and soccer apparently beats out F1 or football apparently beats out F1 in that part of the world for that. So in 2021 was the first time. So we don't only have a 2-race sample size over 3 seasons. Hard to look at too much. Hulkenberg finished 16th last time here, but again, this season has been so different for him and for that team, and he's just been so consistent as of late. 4 straight points finishes, tossing out that rain race. So I really like Nico Hülkenberg this weekend at -110 for a points finish.
Well, and it's funny because you think Kevin Magnussen for sure, but Nico's been outscoring Kevin Magnussen.
He's been the lead guy at Haas for most, if not all, of the season, really, for the most part. Even though, going into the season, you definitely would have said, oh, it's Magnussen. He's the guy that's been there forever, second stint there, all that stuff. But Nico's been the guy that's been getting it done for the team. And Magnussen's had an okay season too, but Nico's has been really impressive for the Haas F1 team.
Yep, and he's been a pretty good staple on DFS rosters as well for being able to beat his opponent.
Those 5 bonus points for beating your teammate are huge in DFS.
Yeah, they are, especially when you're getting down to the lower price guys. But I'm with you on this one. And again, because it's just a matter of for the Haas guys, if I'm picking anybody, it's Hülkenberg to finish in the points for this. So all right, I'm going to the sprint. This is of course a sprint weekend. I'm sorry, I kind of buried the lead on that one. Sprint weekend, which means we get that condensed schedule where we only get one practice, and then we get the qualifying, and then we get the sprint race, and then we qualify again, and we do the race. So, I know I said that Max is going to lay back in the race, but Max doesn't lay back for sprint races for sure. Yes, he did not win the last sprint race he was in. However, I don't think that's going to repeat. I think history will repeat itself that Max will be the sprint winner because we know that all Max does is win sprint races. I highlighted that the last time that I talked about him winning the sprint race, which he didn't do. But you talk about just being able to win sprint races. That's what Max Verstappen does. So, and his number, especially in this instance, plus 325 over on ESPN Bet. Man, if I'm getting 3-1 for Max to do something that he's done over and over and over again, then please give that to me because it's almost a no-brainer. And now that he has won the championship, the race is one thing. Yeah, I get it. But you look back at all the sprint races that we've had, especially Lando won the last one in Brazil, right? But before that, it was Verstappen in Miami. It was Verstappen. Coda was the sprint in the United States. And then the Austrian Grand Prix, he won Miami. He won the Chinese Grand Prix. He won it again in Brazil the year before. And then again at Coda before that. So, I mean, he had won 5 or 6 straight leading up until last time. So I think he's going to come back to it. I think his winning ways in sprint races are going to continue. So at plus 325, this is a steal for a guy that just continues to go out and win sprint races.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue at the price you're getting it at plus 325. Obviously, he's coming off of winning the championship. Red Bull's been down a little bit more than normal here lately. He won in Brazil again. Sort of talk about how that race was a shit show, but hey, he got it done. And it's Max fucking Verstappen. Like that's sort of the end of the argument, really. And you're getting a pretty good number on him. So, I like it, Rod.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a win on this track. Obviously, the last time they did this in 2023, he won this race, led all 57 laps in that one. So, I mean, it's just a matter of he's going to be able to go out there. He's going to be able to get it done, and I think he's going to get it done on the short part of it. All right, Cody, where are we going next?
Yeah, next up for me, Caesars, Rod, has got a couple of group offerings, which I like. We talk about these a lot in NASCAR. Good to see him expanding that over into F1. So I wanted to play this one this weekend. Pretty big on Oscar Piastri this weekend. Pretty big on the papayas of McLaren as well. I think that they're going to show up with very fast hot rods, as Clint Boyer would say from the NASCAR world, Rod. But I'm going to take him to win Group 2, rather. So we have lettered groups in NASCAR, but we get group numbers in F1. I thought that was sort of interesting. So Group 2 over, and they actually started at 1 instead of like E randomly, which is always so weird. Anyways, I digress. Oscar Piastri, Group 2, over on Caesars. Now he's going up against the second driver from Red Bull, so that's an easy automatic win, right? It's like tossing in a freebie. It's like when the underdog has, like Saquon Barkley over half a rushing yard. Like, oh boy, I wonder if he's going to hit that, right? Is he going to beat the second driver from Red Bull, whose name I'm no longer saying? Of course he is, Rod, because he's going to lose in Q1 and start 20th on the grid like he usually does. So we don't have to worry about that. And then he's paired up against the 2 Mercedes guys, which that could be the scary part in this. Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and he's at plus 163 to win this group. He is the favorite. Mercedes, I will say, does scare me a little. They're coming obviously off of a 1-2 finish at Las Vegas here this past weekend, and they've been pretty solid. I made the case last week about George Russell to finish on the podium at such a big number because he's just been so consistent lately. I think we're going to continue to see that consistency from the Mercedes guys this weekend. But like I said, I'm very high on the McLarens this weekend. I'm very big on Oscar Piastri. Spoiler alert, he's going to come up later in the show as well. I do think he'll beat these guys. I think you could have a Russell, Hamilton, 3rd, 5th, 6th place at the end of the day, and Piastri's still going to finish better than them. And again, not worried about that second driver from Red Bull. So give me Oscar Piastri to win Group 2 over on Caesars at plus 163.
Well, like I said, if they can get their rear wing approved for this week, then yes, McLaren is probably going to be a force to be reckoned with. And look, we know what's at stake for these guys. We know what they're running for. They may not be running for the individual championship anymore, but they want to make sure that they could bring home at least a solid finish if the team that I think is going to make a charge makes a charge in that constructor championship. So yeah, I went with him last week, but he didn't really come through. So hopefully this week he'll come through for you as well. Somebody that came through for me, at least in the stance that I wanted him to come through for me last week, was Franco Colapinto. He did beat Alex Albon, which is all I wanted him to do. And then I gave him out also in a DFS article, which, by the by, was pretty good because he did improve his position by at least 3. He did beat his teammate, and he did manage to get a pretty decent day for a guy that was priced the way he was priced. So I'm going back to him this week, and I'm going to put him inside the points at 3.5 to 1. I'm really, and a lot of what I made for him, obviously last week, was what I made for him last week, as far as being able to finish inside of or finish in front of Albon, because I said he would probably end up being a points finisher. He's been inside the points or just outside. A lot of the same argument that you made for Nico Hülkenberg earlier was that, look, I mean, Franco Colapinto in his first few races in this car has been a points contender more than he hasn't been this season. And so for me, it's like the way he charged through the field last week to finish 14th, that wasn't just like because 4 or 5 cars ended up having trouble over the course of the day. Sure, that helped his position a little bit, but he started out on those hard tires and just ran the hell out of them and put himself strategically in the right position to keep moving up spots. So that's an impressive run from a guy who finished in the back of the grid to finish 4 spots outside of the points altogether. If you need a little more evidence, he's finished 8th at Baku, 11th at Marina Bay. He finished inside the points at Coda, 12th at Mexico City, and then unfortunately, like we said, crashed out the week before at Interlagos before a 14th place finish last week as well. So, I mean, look, the Williams team, especially with Albon running in the points last week too for a better part of that race, it just proves that they're actually a solid team, and I think they should be in the points each and every week. And unfortunately, like we said, it gets crowded when you throw 2 McLarens in there, you throw 2 Ferraris, you throw 2 Mercedes, you throw 1 Red Bull for sure, and then the rest of them are sort of up for grabs, right? So give me Franco Colapinto to nab at least that last points spot at 3.5 to 1.
Yeah,
that's
I like
my
it.
bookie, by the way. Sorry, my bookie's got that number.
Hell yeah, that's my bookies. They've got some really great offerings over there, Rod. And yeah, I like this again, a guy that you kind of keep going back to because we know the talent's there and we've seen some really good flashes out of him. You're still getting a good number because they don't exactly know what to expect because we've seen a little bit of everything from them. So still offering you a good number from a guy that we know can get it done. I do like that. I'll go back to the winning margin game, Rod, and try and play this once again. It's been a little bit hard to predict lately, but between 6 and 12 seconds is at plus 300. And I think that, again, the unpredictability to a degree of what the winning margin is going to be in an overall general sense makes you want to lean towards a bigger number, right? So getting this one at 3 to 1, this is the biggest of the groups, right? You have under 6 seconds, 6 to 12, and then over 12 seconds. And between 6 and 12 over on DraftKings is the biggest number at 3 to 1. Go back and you look through kind of what's been done. This race last season was 4 seconds, so just under that window, of course, but then 2021 was 25 seconds. So the 2 race sample size we have here, 2 completely different sides of things, meet in the middle-ish, and you end up near this 6 to 12 second number, right? So I'm going to take that. Go back to Las Vegas last week, 7.3. That would have fallen in there. The Brazil race, again, we're not looking at anything from that race because it doesn't matter. It was 19 seconds if you care, but it doesn't matter. Mexico was 4.7, so would have been just under this. But then the U.S. Grand Prix was 8.5. You had Singapore in there where it was at 20. But Baku, again, back inside of this group at 10.9. So a fair amount of races lately have been inside of this sweet spot. And we're sort of in that point in the like progression of F1 and in the sort of era of, what's the word I'm looking for, Rod? Parody. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you for your assistance on that. Appreciate it.
I wanted you to figure it out yourself. If I don't,
and I didn't really give you any hints for what I was trying to look. What's the word? Like, you know what word I'm thinking of, right?
I give you the answers.
Right? Parody. That's the word. In the era of parody that we have, we're not getting these, for the most part, super big, long runaway races. But you can have one guy that sort of takes control of the race late and gets away just enough to get it in the 6 to 12 second range. So give me the winning margin between 6 and 12 seconds at plus 300.
Well, and as we've seen too, especially since Max isn't clocking these guys at like 6 minutes outside of every single race, as these teams start to get a little bit closer together, and even strategy wise, if they jump out to like a 20-second lead, 22-second lead, a lot of these guys are saying, look, we need that extra point. And if it's a McLaren out front, if it's a Ferrari out front, and they jump out to a big enough lead, then they're going to want to just throw those soft tires on if they build up, especially if their teammates right behind them, to be able to sort of throw that extra point out there. So, yeah, I mean, we're not seeing these guys running away like we did even last season or at the beginning of this season. So I like this. This is a nice little soft spot because then it gives you that if it's too close but not too far, right? It's that Goldilocks zone. What am I looking for? The Goldilocks zone. That's what it is.
That's the word.
That's the word. All right. Well, listen, I like the number for Ferrari winning manufacturer. It's 5-1. And the reason I'm giving the 5-1 for Ferrari is because, well, again, they've got a hell of a lot to race for this weekend. They really want to close the gap on McLaren. They saw, right? They saw the opening last week in McLaren. They actually grabbed a couple of points away from them because McLaren wasn't able to finish better than Ferrari. So with both Ferraris finishing well and both McLarens finishing right behind them, now they want to do that again. And the best way to ensure that is to actually finish in front of and win the race. So I feel like at 5-1 for a Ferrari to win the race, it's such a good number. So like we talked about earlier in the episode, McLaren rather is at 608 as far as points are concerned, and Ferrari is at 584. Not mathematically eliminated from it yet, so there's still a lot to race for in these races. And for Ferrari, look, they finished 3rd and 4th last week, right? Not saying that they could have won the race, because I know that you said they probably could have jumped out earlier and won it, but I think Mercedes had too fast of cars to be denied a win this week. So, but again, this means that Ferrari is just going to come out hungrier as well. And Leclerc and Sainz both being able to come out and do well is something we've seen before, especially at this track, where when you look at the Ferraris, Charles Leclerc finished in 5th last season when they ran this race. Unfortunately, it wasn't a good day for Carlos Sainz as he had a fuel leak, but Leclerc did finish 5th here. Look, it's a big number for a constructor that has a lot on the line to win. So, is it possible? Yes. Is it feasible? Maybe, but I still think at 5-1, it's a good sprinkle to take.
Yeah, I actually really like this bet because you don't have to pick one of them, right? You're getting both of them, which I think is we've seen they're both able to get a lot done, which I think is great. Getting a good number at 5-1. Ferrari struggled a little bit more on the higher speed tracks, and the numbers reflect that this weekend, but we've seen them be very fast lately. They've qualified well almost each and every single time that we've been out over the last handful of Grand Prix, and they're sort of always in the mix to get it done. So I do like getting both of them at a decent number at 5-1. And then you're not stuck to just one of them. It could be either one that gets it done. So I think that's a good call by you, Rod. All right. Should we head to the outright winners section? I'm going to go back to Oscar Piastri. Plus 425. Considered strongly his teammate Lando, because I think that Lando's going to be fast as well. He's at half the number, right? He's at 2-1. So I like getting Piastri twice the number, plus 425. Rod, I mentioned earlier that Max Verstappen, having won the championship, was going to play into my handicap later. This means that Oscar Piastri doesn't have to yield to Lando Norris anymore. He's not racing to catch Max in the driver's title. So if Piastri just gets out and is better right off the gun, then they're just going to leave him up there. There's no reason to make them switch. Love that for Oscar Piastri, because we've seen him get it done plenty of times this season. Been a little bit quieter over the last handful of races, but like we said, this is kind of the perfect spot for them. And I know our guy Preston's not in the chat today, Rod, but I know he's going to be very excited about this. Very happy about this. He's very big on McLaren. He's been talking about McLaren being good this weekend for multiple weeks. Thanks for the help there as well. I'm using that as part of my research. So credit to Preston also on that. But doesn't have to yield to Lando, which I think is going to potentially be huge. He actually finished second place in this race last season, Rod, to Max Verstappen, and by only 4 seconds, like I mentioned before, was the distance there. That was pre-McLaren being what they are now. That was Oscar was still just, in his rookie season, figuring things out. Great run by him. Looked very good here. Now we're a full season later. He's got 2 wins under his belt. He's been in the podium 6 times in the last 12 races. So the second half of the season has been pretty good to him here. 6 podiums in the last 12 races, 2 of those being wins. I think he could get it done again this weekend at plus 425. Give me some Oscar Piastri. And then George Russell at 6-1, because I think you just have to at this point, right? You go back and you look at last week, he won the race, probably being overvalued a little bit, but Mercedes has the one other win here in 2021 and the other Grand Prix that they ran here, of course, to nobody's surprise. That was Lewis Hamilton winning that one. But coming off the win last week, and he's around and in contention every single week, which was the entire handicap and thought on him last week going into the Las Vegas Grand Prix, taking the 8-1 to be on the podium, just because he's hanging out and he's in the area each and every single time. Oh, and by the way, he can get it done. This was technically the 3rd time he's crossed the line as the winner of the race. Of course, he had the one where he was disqualified due to weight, but he's gotten it done a few times this season. He could easily get it done again. 6-1, I think the number's still good enough. So Piastri at 425, George Russell at 6-1 are my outrights.
So I'm going to turn around and take his teammate, Russell's teammate, and that's Lewis at plus 650. The only other person to have won on this track other than Max Verstappen. We saw how fast Mercedes were yesterday or Sunday, whenever that was. Yeah, it was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Well, yesterday was Sunday, but the race was on
Saturday night. Yeah, but technically it was Sunday.
True. In some parts of the world, yeah, it was Sunday.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lewis 6.5-1. I think that's such a big number for the guy that's won this race before. Has he been knocking on the door for a championship? No. Does Mercedes have something to race for? Possibly. I mean, again, I don't know that they're that far out of or they're far enough out to make a difference for the Constructors Championship, but sure, it would be nice for them to be able to do it. So, but I still think, Lewis Hamilton's got to make a name for himself on his way out of Mercedes, kind of leave on a good note. And like I said, 6.5-1 for the guy that's won this race outside of Max Verstappen, still kind of a big number. The only reason that I'm not going with like a Lando or a Max or, anybody else in that capacity is because, well, there's only 2 races left in the season. So, I mean, it's one of those things where if you're going to start betting long shot winners, now's the chance to do it. And really, you can't bet 2 long shots because it's got to stay within at least the Mercedes, the McLaren, or the Ferrari, or the Red Bull. Well, at least half the Red Bull stable. So, it's at this point in the season, it's pick who you want to root for and go for it. And I think, like I said, with the way we saw Lewis run last week, with the way we saw Mercedes, how fast they were last week, I don't think that slows down here. And I think given that they've been able to get around this track pretty quickly over the course of their time, yeah, give me that one. I know it was a bad race for Hamilton last year, last year he's crashed out of this race. But like you said, George Russell finished 4th, so we know the Mercedes can get around this quick. So let me have Lewis Hamilton to get around it quicker at plus 650.
Yeah, no argument from me. It's Lewis Hamilton. I mean, again, back to the point of lots of good reasons to bet on him. It's Lewis Hamilton. So, yeah, and Mercedes has been getting it done. They don't get quite as much respect as everybody else, it seems like, but they continue to get it done.
Indeed, they do. All right, get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over our bets for this Grand Prix at Lusail. Cody started you out with Nico Hulkenberg inside of the points at -110. I said that Max Verstappen would win the sprint race at +325 over there on ESPN. Cody gave you Oscar Piastri to win Group 2 on Caesars, which is Lewis, Russell, and Checo at +163. I said that my boy Franco Colapinto would be in the points at the end of the day at +350 over on mybookie.ag. Cody gave you the winning margin between 6 and 12 at 3-1, and then I said that Ferrari would be the winning manufacturer at 5-1. Cody gave you Oscar Piastri at +425 and George Russell at +600 as his outrights. I said Lewis Hamilton would get it done at +650 over on DraftKings. Watching intently, Cody, as this race unfolds. Like we said, this is a sprint weekend, so the practice one starts on the 29th of November, and then qualifying for that sprint goes on the 29th, and then the 30th, and the race itself is on the 1st of December. So make sure you keep the schedule in mind as you go to place your bets.
Yes, sir. It's going to be pretty exciting, and yeah, we got 2 races left, so wrap up the season strong.
2 races left. That's going to be sad because there'll be no racing for a while.
I know. It's very sad, Rod.
It's all right. All right. Well, then, Cody, let's send everybody off to start putting their betting cards together, and we get ready for Qatar.
Let's do that, Rod. Yeah, in the meantime, you can follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. Find all my stuff over there. There's plenty of it. And, yeah, we'll see you guys next week to wrap up the season and put a bow on it.
Indeed. Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the about everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, where I'm dishing out first touchdown picks all weekend long, all Thanksgiving weekend long. And you can find that there. And then also there's a little site that I'm getting kind of more active on. The link is there as well. I picked an esports winner the other day. So congratulations, Team Falcons, for winning the Overwatch Series Championship in the Netherlands. I think it was where it was at. But anyways, might be some more esports coming. Definitely some more fun sports coming as well. All right, everybody, we'll see you guys. Oh, yeah, I also did F1 DFS on that. So I picked Colapinto, and, yeah, that was pretty fun. So, all right, guys, that's neither here nor there. We'll see you next week for more of the F1 Gambling Podcast. And until then, let's go racing and let it ride.